I've been dating my partner for a little over a year now. His previous marriage ended in divorce because my boyfriend desired children. That was a few years back. After 2 years of separation, they can now begin the divorce process. He told me straight out that he wanted kids when we first met, which was a wish we both had. Since their split, he hadn't seen or spoken to his former partner. After the divorce is finalized, we were going to be engaged, but it might take longer if they don't sign the paperwork. My boyfriend's relatives told me that she was crazy about him and didn't want a divorce, so I was afraid she wouldn't sign. I had no idea that it would originate from him. I accompanied him to her attorney's office so they could finalize the deal. I wanted to be there for him. She wasn't who I had anticipated. She wasn't as distraught as my boyfriend's family had anticipated. She appeared calm, gorgeous, charming, and completely over my boyfriend. Her hand was on her emaciated belly. She was friendly and seemed to be familiar with me. She was so indifferent that she seemed to be unaware about her soon-to-be ex's new partner. She said that she continued to follow his news and that she learned about it through mutual connections. Pleased her that he appeared content. My partner was taken aback. Instead of responding to her question about how he was, he began to rant at her and shake in pain and rage. He threatened to ruin her life and declined to sign the documents. He told her to quit acting bewildered, even though she knew what she'd done, despite her extreme distress. He departed. He simply departed, not even realizing that I was there. She stated that I didn't have to apologize. She did it herself. I gave a half-hearted apology. Then, because he didn't want her to drive while trembling, her attorney asked if he might take her home. I was in need of a ride too, so he asked. He insisted, but I told him I could take an Uber. It was a strange drive. They've been together for about 2 years, but I learned that her partner was gone on business. I was tired when I came home. There was no call, text, or anything from my guy. When I called his mother, she advised me to be patient with him as he simply needed time, and to give him some time because he loved me. What time, though? It was a Thursday. He brought breakfast today and claimed he needed more time. He denied signing the documents when I inquired if he was. Then he said to believe him that he needed time and that he didn't want to talk about it. Put otherwise, he is unwilling to talk to me about what transpired. I need to consider this to be enlightening. He revealed his real face. I genuinely believe that he brought Op to the divorce signing with the intention of hurting his former partner. It appears that Op has discovered why his wife refused to have children with him. Op has to get away from this man as quickly as possible. Let's now see if the community concurs with my assessment. Charlie 1986 says there's a reason she didn't want a child with him, and you can tell he isn't over her based on his response and the way he handled you both. He's taking retribution by refusing to sign. Is that really the person you want to spend your time with? I would run if I were you, says the conciliatory cat. Wait, he left you? He just drove off, leaving you there. He then vanished from sight for several days before reappearing and telling you to give him some time. Oh my God, girl. Get your dignity up off the ground. Dust it off and put it to use. He abandoned you. He showed you who he is, and I'm so amazed that you didn't just block him on everything right away. Accept him. It makes sense why the woman was opposed to having children with this man. Crazy guy, he threatened her in front of her lawyer. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Exclaims Happy Ducking Cake Day. That's some terrible conduct, particularly coming from a 40-year-old. Do you really want to spend a portion of your life with someone who could treat someone so badly? I'll attempt to keep this brief, much like my sister's marriage history. After 2 years of marriage, my sister, a 39-year-old woman, is currently going through a difficult international divorce. During my daughter's spring break last week, we spontaneously planned a last-minute trip to Las Vegas. I'm a 42-year-old woman who has been jokingly pressuring my 22-year husband to renew our vows for a very long time. Usually, we laugh about it and go on, but just before we left, it occurred to me that it might be great to conduct an elopement-style vow renewal. Given that our trip was last minute, I picked up a white shirt, a plastic ring that lit up, a cheap bunch of fake flowers, and a dress-up tiara for our flower girl, our daughter. We concluded the ceremony with a "I still do" after about 3 minutes. and I selected the lowest possible price for a vow renewal package, $69. We didn't inform anyone in advance or issue any kind of statement afterwards because it was merely something we enjoyed doing. Our 8-year-old was the one who went about telling everyone that her parents had finally gotten married, including strangers on the sidewalk, at the grocery store, and at school. We had some backlash from individuals we know, who assumed we had been lying about being married for the entire time because she doesn't really understand or care about the distinction between a wedding and a vow renewal. Good times. Nevertheless, my daughter informed my sister and her relatives that we were married while traveling. My sister understood that it was a vow renewal because she served as the maid of honor in our actual wedding. She remained silent in front of the children, but when she heard, she gave me a really phony smile and giggled. My sister let me have it when we had a private conversation with our kids. She informed me that while she was going through a divorce, it was incredibly disrespectful and insensitive of my husband and me to perform a vow renewal. Not to be outdone, but her divorce has been pending for the last 6 months. She said we were shoving marriage in her face and that our vow renewal was careless. She stated that we ought to have kept the vow renewal a secret or not done it at all. This was over a week ago, and she hasn't gotten back to me. Being a people pleaser, my mother won't stand by her position on this. My spouse no longer gives a damn about what my sister thinks or says, so perhaps my friends are biased in that regard. Still, I think my sister is crazy to be upset about it. The only close blood relatives we have are my mum, sister, and me. We are not close with my dad at all. Since this was primarily just a last-minute joke, I don't want it to become a problem. I'm trying to move on and apologize to my sister for making her feel horrible, but I'm resisting because I think she's being foolish. So, dear friends, tell me, am I the a-hole or what? Op is not in need of an apology. What, just because she is divorcing doesn't mean that no one can be married now. Op didn't rub Op's sister's face in the vow renewal, and it had nothing to do with either of them. Op wasn't boasting or sharing it with others. Let's now hear what the community has to say. According to Scooby Doombot, tell your sister to write down her thoughts about this on a piece of paper and seal it in an envelope before she goes to sleep tonight. When she wakes up in the morning, have her open the envelope and read these thoughts out loud. This is very important to herself. Then, decide if accusing you of renewing your vows just despite her sounds like a normal thing normal people do, or if it sounds utterly ducking unhinged. If she keeps on with this, I suggest buying a squirt bottle and just spraying her anytime she starts talking about it. According to Falling into Polka Dot, not the a-hole. You and your husband weren't doing a vow renewal at her, and she didn't even know about it until your daughter said something. And then word spread. You all didn't make a big deal of it, post photos, or a long social post. She may be going through a divorce, but that doesn't mean you have to put your life on hold or consider her feelings when you're doing something fun and silly but still heartfelt in Vegas, attended only by you, your husband, and your daughter. It had nothing to do with her. RM1102 responds, not the a-hole. This is preposterous. This had nothing to do with her. I get her divorce is stressful, but that doesn't mean no one else can be happy in their marriage. My 50-year-old husband and I, a 46-year-old woman, have been in an extremely emotionally controlling marriage for the past 21 years. I always felt like I was falling short of something new. Together, we are parents to 6 children. 10 male, 11 female, 13 male, 17 female, and 19 male. My spouse desired 6 children, while my maximum desire was only 4. Our youngest son was a surprise baby, and I was made to feel horrible about forcing him to compromise with 5 children. His friends and family disapproved of him using painkillers to manipulate circumstances. My spouse was unhappy because they indicated that the mother's body was designed for a natural birth. With our 5th and 6th, I chose to get an epidural. He insisted that I do not work and would not consider any kind of outside daycare for our children. I experienced pressure to be the ideal housewife, never making the same meal twice in a week. The worst part, though, is that I found out how obsessed my husband was with his former partner only after the birth of our first child. Given my middle height, maintaining my fitness requires hard. They both loved skiing, and his ex-girlfriend was quite tall and slender. They split up when she was 23 and he was 24, and ever since, he's been talking to friends about how that 22-year-old girl who was tall, extremely athletic, and extremely slender was the perfect, gorgeous lady. He suggested that since Boise is my hometown and we wouldn't want to offend me for the sake of objectivity, he should start saying that Boise, Idaho, is the greatest vacation destination ever, better than Paris and Milan. When I told him to stop using his ex as his definition of beauty, he would respond, "Your inability to change your height is your problem." My spouse was let go in late 2020 and started working in May 2021. Having been laid off from that position in December 2023, he is experiencing ego problems due to the fact that all the interviewers are younger than him. I was given the chance to watch 2 kids from the neighborhood, but he turned me down, telling me the money I would make would not amount to much. When I attempted to assist him in organizing his job applications, a major altercation ensued. He angrily declared that a 36-year-old could not possibly know as much as he does about the business, and he would not spend time being interviewed by a mid-30s dumb recruiter. Then he began to suggest that if I had some potential for producing money, this would be simpler. He desired a conventional dynamic, thus I was upset about this. I replied it's funny because he believes that a 36-year-old is ignorant and that his 23-year-old ex was a brilliant, beautiful, and all-knowing woman. She at least has something to profit from, he retorted. I answered, I'm done. I wish him luck in finding his supermodel ideal as a 50-year-old unemployed. Am I the a-hole? He cried. Thanks for kicking me when I'm down. I've often wondered how he would react if I became fixated on how different the world's CEOs are from him. That's really different, he said, and it's just my projection. Ought to have left him as soon as he informed her that she was unable to work. Throughout her entire life, has only ever identified as a mother, even though she wanted to work and make a contribution but was never permitted to. Although, from what I gather, the person is not even considering leaving him, I still wish they had left sooner. All he's done is manipulate, wear her down, control, and dehumanize her. Awful person to spend time with. Let's now hear what the community has to say. According to Concertina TPOR, I think you know you are not the a-hole, but I'm more focused on what your needs right now are. I think you need to find a support team to help you manage this situation right now. He's verbally aggressive to you and, by extension, your children. He's having an emotional meltdown. Are you financially secure? Are you physically secure? Do you have an attorney? Do you have a trusted friend or counselor who can be a support and can help you figure out your options short and long term? Life's too short to put up with this guy's nonsense. The conventional curve 401 states, not the a-hole. This is a cluster if I've ever seen one. Please start working on building your skill set, locating free resources that can help you with the things you need for your kids, and some counseling or therapy to build your self-esteem. Years ago, D32, and my ex-husband had an amicable divorce. He instructed me to keep the diamond ring when we divorced. He claimed that since we had spent so many happy years together, it had been well used and purchased with the purpose of being mine. After we both moved on, I started dating 36-year-old Mark 2 years ago. We've discussed getting married and moving in together. We've reached the part when we discuss money, and I listed all of my assets and liabilities, including my previous engagement ring, a high-end designer brand. Mark advised me to sell the ring and use the proceeds for our future, possibly even a down payment on a house, now that he was going on with his life. I didn't agree to sell it. Although our divorce agreement included wording giving me complete ownership of the ring, I feel bad making money off of it because it was a gift to me. It also feels bad to use the money for something with a new partner because my ex paid for it. I mentioned that if Mark felt uneasy about my owning the ring, I would return it to my former spouse so he could sell it, or I could repurpose it into a different item of jewelry, like a necklace or pair of earrings. Mark is irate. I refused to use a sizable portion of the money I could have for a down payment. To be quite honest, I attended medical school, thus I had delayed student loans and very little savings. During my 6 years as a resident and fellow, I received an extremely meager wage for training. My fellowship will formally end in July, at which point I will be receiving a much larger income. I just don't have enough savings for a house with Mark or a wedding, and selling the ring may provide me with a sizable chunk of money. I don't have any trouble repaying my personal debts. I declined based on morality. I told Mark that if he wanted to buy a place and I moved in with him, I would be delighted to pay the rent, or we could wait till I had more money saved up for my new job. He claimed that if I could be contributing significantly to our future together and decide not to in favor of hanging onto a ring that shouldn't mean anything to me, it would be a sign that I didn't care about us. Now, am I the jerk? Not the a-hole, and I don't care if I lose the downvote for this. The reason for this is that you're willing to part with the ring and return it to your former partner, indicating that you're not clinging to the connection. For you, it's not about the money. For Mark, it's about the ring's monetary worth. However, while it's acceptable to use your ex's money to fund your new boyfriend's house, you don't want to disrespect him in the process. Not the a-hole, and Mark seems to be claiming ownership of your belongings and money. He may or may not be attempting to have your former relationship with another man erased, but looking forward, I would be concerned if he tried to pressure you into selling your property so that he could gain financially. Take note of the fact that he didn't advise you to sell the ring in order to settle your college loans, which aren't going to be postponed for very long. He gains nothing from that. He seems like the kind of person who would exploit you, not the bastard. It's time to get it insured if you haven't already. It could vanish due to a miscommunication, and your future husband, not you, made a sizable payment on your future house. Keep it hidden in a box that is only accessible to you, or wear it on a chain at all times. I would maintain it as a safety net in case something goes really wrong and you need quick access to funds in an emergency, since he only views it as a financial asset.